All right, so I thought this was an interesting interaction. I don't know how much space I got on my computer, but I'm gonna just make this as long as I can make it. I don't really have to do this whole video. This is a long interview, but I was thinking this is an interesting interaction between Clavicular and Bradley Martyn. So like I can use this as an example to talk about how different dynamics work in real life, and as far as two different types with hold on, maybe opposing. Let me see. Let me switch my light a little bit. With let's say you got a person who has a certain dominant function versus a person who has that same function as their inferior. So this is interesting because let me switch over. So clavicular, I know you guys have heard of him probably. I know I made a comment talking about how I don't like the looksmaxxing thing, and he kind of is the pioneer for it. But it's not what you think it is. So clavicular, I type clavicular. Now, when you talk about the way he lives his lifestyle, let me go into that a little bit too before I get started. The way the clavicular lives his lifestyle, actually, um, so if you don't know about, so let's talk about like four subtypes. Each type can be broken down into four subtypes or subcategories. Now, socionics has talked about this. I'm not like a huge fan of socionics, but one thing they did do that I did like was they broke down things into subcategories, right? The way that it can be defined. I'm not going to use the SLE stuff that they use and SLI and all that type of stuff. I'll break it down like this. So you can have four subtypes within every type. Well, and the way that you would define a subcategory within a type is um, what do they revolve their lifestyle around? Um, Now, when it comes to type, you have two main functions that you use, your top four functions. And then from there, of course, is your top two functions, right? You can revolve your life around any of the top four functions that you have. So, for instance, for example, myself, I'm an ISTP. My four top functions are introverted thinking, extroverted sensing, introverted intuition, extroverted feeling. My life can be centered around any of those four. Now, it's less likely that it will be centered around my bottom two functions. That's going to be a lot more rare. But it's going to be more likely that I center my lifestyle around introverted thinking or extroverted sensing. But it can happen, and you also can be a different subcategory within your type, depending on what stage of life you in. So, like, pretty much, as far as that, um, like let's say younger, when I'm, at the age I'm at now, I'm an extroverted sensing subcategory, right? Which I was typed as an extroverted sensing subtype by EJR&D a long time ago, right? He was right, so let's say if I'm there right now, later in life, I could become an NI subcategory. That's how how it works for every type. Um, so like lifestyle, like that's kind of how I'm defining it is by lifestyle. So clavicular is kind of like the point I'm trying to make with that. Clavicular is like a rare case of an INTJ who revolves his life around an extroverted sensing activities. I think he's not like your typical INTJ, which is why he's also autistic. So that's interesting. But the idea here is that's what he is. Like looks maxing, like he's trying to achieve aesthetic appeal like an extroverted sensor, but he's doing it in a very NI and TI way. I mean not TI, NI and TE way.
You did you take any
But let's get started.
anything to be ready for the interview?
No, I've been stopping all of the stimuli usage, trying to taper off that. So I'm just fully dialed in, sober.
Yeah.
So
How did your first like, because I seen clips of you talking about like
yeah,
doing
doing math.
yeah
Probably. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention too. Bradley Martyn. I typed Bradley Martyn as a ESFP. I think he's quite obviously an ESFP. Um, but it's an interesting dynamic because clavicular is a SC inferior. The way that it comes out is a lot of his things he does clavicular. Um, it's like he goes to these drastic methods that are like kind of more on the unnatural side of things to achieve what he wants to look like. And the idea is in his mind, like introverted intuition. like what he wants to look like, and he achieved this over time. But it like done in a lot of ways that I do not agree with, and a lot of people don't agree with, which cause kind of long term effects. And the thing is, like when using your inferior function, you can overindulge. So him going to those such drastic lengths to achieve that look is him overindulging his extroverted sensor because that's inferior territory. I mean, not inferior, that's unfamiliar territory for him. So when you start to indulge in your inferior function, you can overuse it and overindulge in it.
Yeah.
How did that start?
Well, so that started because I went on a trip with some buddies, and you're not really too sure all the time what's in like some of like maybe the Miami cocaine. So we just opted to do meth, which we knew
He
was
does meth,
going.
and he does meth to keep himself lean. Like he's doing all these like crazy methods and things. And then you see Bradley Martyn. I know a lot of people had the same reaction to when Clavicular talks about these things, but Bradley Martyn, I think he sees a little bit of that extroverted sensing. Like he doesn't know what to call it, but that's what's happening. Like he's an SE dime. It's easy for him to critique an SE inferior.
To be more pure. So that's kind of how that started. And then you actually take a look at the science of what meth actually is, and it's really not too far off from just your traditional run of the mill Adderall.
Yeah. So like INTJs will take some of the things that an ESFP does naturally, and they will approach it with a scientific method approach, and will scale it and things like that. Whereas an ESFP would do the same exact thing, except they're going to take the most natural and just look at it and fill it out approach. So that's kind of where he does with everything. He takes this scientific, like factual data, statistical approach to everything, which is interesting. That's how INTJs do usually.
Adderall is dexamphetamine, right?
Yeah, it's a different
We were
derivative.
taking dextromethamphetamine, so really not that much different, just a bit longer of a half-life, because my goal was not only just for the productivity and the psychoactive benefits of methamphetamine, it was also for the appetite suppression, right?
Yeah.
Trying to looksmax a little bit with meth. So that I agree that that's a little bit crazy, and I just want to clarify. I never advocate anyone to do this. I'm just like, this is what I did, but I
Yeah.
don't think people should take stimulants. I think more people are going to go about stimulants in the wrong way rather than the right way.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
right off the bat, do not do that. Any of the shit I'm talking about.
Yeah. Because there's so many other things. There's so many different peptides and other things you can do
Right.
to suppress your appetite.
Oh yeah, no, I'm on retatrutide too.
Yeah.
And a pretty hefty dose of Retta. So, I take 15 mg, but I just have such a high baseline appetite that like I don't really have time to do cardio these days with like streaming and stuff. So if
Super efficient. Like he all he's thinking about is efficiency. Like they're very TE heavy approach to things, very extroverted thinking heavy approach. And the way he's like, oh, I don't have time to do cardio, it's because he's probably a workaholic. Extroverted thinkers are like the biggest workaholics.
I want to go on like a really heavy shred, I was just like math maxing.
It just sounds insane.
I know, yeah, it does sound insane because like I'll sit here and I'll like explain it and I'll just be in like a fully monotone voice. But it's like, yeah, I'm doing math. So I know
Extroverted
it's bad,
thinking.
but I haven't done.
I mean, monotone. I speak monotone myself. I'm not an extroverted thinker, but it can be kind of a thinking function thing, in general. It depends on the person too. Like, yeah, that
math in a while. So for like 2 weeks now, I don't plan on restarting.
Okay.
So we're done.
They didn't get you on the addiction side yet.
No, dude. Being addicted to drugs is like, I don't know. It's kind of a lack of willpower in my opinion.
Yeah.
But there's certainly like more addictive things, like a lot of
lack of willpower sounds like NI. The way he's looking at it. NI user can kind of think themselves out of things. Like if they're in a particular part of life that they don't want to be in, they can kind of think about where they want to be and just get out of it.
opioids and things like, or something like benzos, which make you like actually dependent.
Yeah.
Whereas stimulants, you just like feel bad. You don't really have the same drive that you do when you take them for a long time and then you discontinue your usage. Yeah, the drive goes away, but you're not necessarily dependent. So
Yeah.
I was able to quite easily get off of this.
Is that the most extreme thing you think that you've done for the look maxing sort of world?
I would say that how early I started TRT would probably be
Yeah.
the thing that would be the most extreme, and just the introduction of things like HGH and aromatase inhibitors. Extremely young would be the most extreme.
Yeah.
That's generally the consensus.
It's like I think he started so young because he already had the vision of what he wanted to do. Now a lot of stuff he does, it's like a twisted way of extroverted sensing, like motivation, like it's causing long term effects. But he knows. I think he's like knows the long term effects, and he doesn't care about the risk. You know what I mean? Like extroverted sensor Dom would do something similar, but they're not going to do it in an unnatural way. To kind of would think of more natural ways to do it. But like I said, this extroverted sensing is this low inferior function. So that's how people actually do this in real life. Like, um, it comes off in a very unnatural kind of way when you're stuck in your inferior function. But like, it's not just him being stuck in his inferior function. This is kind of his lifestyle. I mean, like he's actually a SC subtype INTJ, which is like when you're talking about that, that's a more rare version of INTJ. So
I would say that, in my opinion, that doesn't really seem that extreme to me. It seems very logical, but that's just like what gets the biggest reaction out of people.
yeah,
I would
he's
say
always thinking
MF,
about what's
in my
logical and
opinion, would be
extrovert thinking. Yeah.
more, over
I
the
mean,
top.
even though a person can say logical and not necessarily, it doesn't always mean they're a thinker. You know what I mean? If they're not thinking about Myers Briggs when they say logical. You don't know what context they're using that. I've seen introverted fillers call themselves logical, but you don't know what they're trying to like base it, what they're thinking about when they're saying that. Like people like take little phrases like that sometimes and over think like, oh, that means they're this type. Or if a thinker says, I feel like, they think automatic, oh, that means he's a filler. He said, I feel like a bunch of times. No, it don't work like that. But in this context, I think that's what it means.
Yeah. And so you started taking testosterone, you were how old?
When I was 14.
Dude, that's insane when I hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy.
So what's the logic behind that? You think that it's going to help you grow? Because it's more the growth hormone is going to help grow.
Yeah. Testosterone is not for vertical height growth. It actually will serve to detriment you, which a lot of people don't realize, because of the
He's done a lot of research
aromatase
on these
estrogen,
supplements
it's
he
gonna cause your
takes.
growth plates to fuse, right? So it was more for facial masculinization, going for a more dimorphic look, and developing like the facial bones, things of this nature. Just going for like an overall masculinized look. Early into my life.
Yeah.
You know.
So we got to talk about the whole goal of the looksmaxxing thing is like, from your perspective, because this didn't become. I feel like, I don't know, when did looksmaxxing actually start to become like a talking point?
Well, I would say that it became like a well-known, like trendy, like joke back in 2023. August of 2023 is when it skyrocketed in popularity, but it was mostly just like a lighthearted thing. It was more just like joking around, like mewing, maybe like people doing the stupid shit with their jaw. So that was 2023 was like the first push. I would say now this is like a
So he didn't start it, I guess. I guess he kind of just made it more popular. Okay.
new iteration of looksmaxxing that I'm kind of talking about now, which is actually what looksmaxxing was always meant to be, was like doing whatever it takes to ascend type of mentality. So that kind of got lost with like the first popularization, because like a lot of the creators.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really like looksmaxxing, because the way that they go about it, they're doing these crazy things to look a certain way. Like, yeah, take care of your appearance, it's cool, but like there's a certain extent to where you can like overdo things. Um, the most I'll do, I mean, I might have a little skincare routine here and there, but I'm not gonna do all that stuff they be doing, man. They be having hammers and like trying to break the bones in their face, like make tiny little breaks in it so that when it heals, it like looks a certain. I'm not gonna do all that type of stuff. Yeah.
Weren't really like tapped in with the actual looksmax community, but now I'm saying like, guys, like this is serious, because I talk a lot about the ideology of why should you looksmax, why is it so important?
Yeah.
That's
what I want to talk about. So
yeah,
because candidly speaking, like obviously I understand to an extent the way you look affects the way that you're received by people.
right.
So taller people normally are.
And you see what he's saying right here. He understands this because he's an extroverted sensing dime, and extroverted sensing is heavily linked to aesthetic appeal in like a natural way, and like how you fit into the environment, strong presence, which a lot of times the strong presence has to do with extroverted sensing. That's why Bradley Martyn, I feel like he understands that, because I'm like I said, I think he's an extroverted sensing dime. He gets it, but like I said, he's about to like poke some holes in it right now.
Are looked at maybe a little bit more respected, just because like it's just like a default thing that humans sort of see.
Yeah, just evolution.
And then visually, yeah, people tend to give more opportunities or more action in any sense, not even necessarily like sexual relations, all that. Just like even men to men are more like, I'm more apt to sort of give you the time of day to hear you out if they're attracted to you, or I'm not saying it's like a guy on guy thing, but like in general.
It's just a subconscious bias. It's the halo effect.
But
yeah, the way Clavicular looks at it is in general, like if you look better, you're going to have better opportunities. You're going to have not just about dating, like just in general, like everything's better when you look better. That's like a very TE way of looking at something. Like that's an extroverted thinking type of way to look at it. It's all about what's most efficient and getting ahead in life, like to him, versus just looking good, like just because, oh, I'm cool, Extroverted sensing down would want to look good, most so because when you look good, you feel good. That's what extroverted senses how we are. Like we'll think like we look good, we feel good, we do everything better. Extroverted thinking, when it adopts that mindset, it's more like more opportunities and things like that.
But it's also a little bit of a feminine trait, carrying to some crazy degree how you look, because
that's exactly what I was saying too. I think it's feminine if you're trying to like focus too much on your appearance, and like extroverted sensing, like the reason why he understands that too is because it's more of his realm. He understands the idea of trying to be more aesthetically appealing, but then he understands like doing it too much to the point to where he looks feminine. And that's what I think too. I think in general, like I know women pretty well. I think if a woman knows, like let's say if a woman thinks you look very attractive, but if she knows that you went to like drastic methods, like to look a certain way, like you went and had a bunch of surgeries and stuff like that, that could be looked at as a feminine thing. Like you sat and it seems like you stood and looked at yourself in the mirror like more than she did, then a woman looks in the mirror, then that could be seen as feminine by her. And I think that could be unattractive to a lot of women. But that's beside the point. But like I said the same thing. That's why I was saying when I said like I don't like the looksmaxxing thing, because it's like you looking in the mirror and you like obsessing over just little details on your face. That's not a masculine thing. Now, paying attention to your appearance and trying to look your best, nothing wrong with that. I do that. Like, not 24/7. I'm not 24/7 trying to look good. Sometimes it's like, man, I'm trying to put in some work this week. I'm gonna be looking a little rough this week. I'm just trying to focus on my work this week. I'm not finna try to look as good. I mean, but like I do focus on my appearance for the most part, to an extent. But I'm not spending 10 hours in the mirror, at the same time.
We're doing this pod last night. I mean, I've talked about this plenty of times, but
that's like beginner extroverted sensing. That's like if you first discover extroverted sensing in yourself or something like that. That's how they would approach it. Like, but then it's like you learn that the reason why he understands, I think, because he's an SC dom.
I was with Steiny, we were talking with Sky Bree about like why are people so concerned like in interrelationships with men and women, where it's like
this right here, what he's doing here is introverted feeling, the way that he's diving into it and trying to figure out why, not in like an introverted thinking way, but he's doing it, I think, in an introverted feeling way. He's trying to feel it out and understand and get inside the emotions of people in a way.
Men look for women, and one of the highest sort of things that they look for is the way that they look visually, right? And the highest thing sort of women look for is financial security, so like money, right? Those are the two sort of trade-offs.
Well, is that really true though? The highest thing that women look for is definitely still looks. Over wealth. I think that's been.
Yeah, yeah, but like, if you're doing the things that he does to look that way, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not trying to get off subject, but we're gonna stick to typing. But
very easily disproven by like a lot of the.
And Clavicular, like he gets girls, of course. Like he's hitting in many areas. I'm not trying to downplay him. I'm just saying, like, quite a lot of women, if they know, like, let's say that's the only quick trait you got is your looks. If they know that you went that far to achieve your looks, then yeah, that's kind of weird to like some women. I'm not all women. I can't speak for all women, but yeah, I think, in my opinion, that's how I think some women would look at it.
Self-report studies.
But it's not all about women. I just think in general, I don't think that's like some of the things that he does to look as best as he can is just like it ain't worth it. It's like more an extroverted sensing, high extroverted sensor, like I think Bradley Martyn, and not even just extroverted sensors. A lot of people in general get this, but like there's like a risk reward idea behind like how good you want to look, and it's like something that an extroverted sensor will learn. That we learn that type of stuff early on. Versus like somebody who might have it as a tertiary or inferior, they're not gonna learn that right away. Like it takes them a little longer to learn that because when they start to discover the extroverted sensor and they like overindulge, and then it takes them a little while to realize like, dang, I'm doing all this stuff. It's like too much risk reward, So that's kind of how it is when it comes to your lower function stack. Like, yeah,
that we've seen, and just like stuff with dating apps reporting their data.
like a whole new world.
So I don't really think that's true at all. I would.
You think that women look for looks more than anything?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, but at the same time, it's more like I think we all see things before we. The first thing we do is see something. So like, and not even just when it comes to women, but the way he's looking at it, he's using extroverted sensing in a very like beginner like level way. Like of course he's become very successful doing this stuff. He's a streamer and all that type of stuff. But like Bradley Martyn, I think, like I said, extroverted sensing now. That's just how these kind of dynamics play. A lot of people don't even spend any time trying to understand how the inferior function looks on people. So that's just part of the reason why I'm doing this video.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think that most women? I guess in the short term that might be true, but like in the long term, do you think that that's what's true?
I think that when it's time to actually have a partner in the long term, that might come into play more. But
yeah, like I've seen this with ENTJs and INTJs. Like when they start getting into extroverted sensing, they might do surface things, like as far as the looks, and then past that, it might be a little hollow if they're trying to put too much emphasis on that, of course. Um, but like this is kind of how it is for like low extroverted sensing users in general. Like starting off, and then eventually they can get past that. Of course, it's not like always type, but like initially, I think they can get stuck on that type of thing. Like ENTJs are very metrosexual. Like when they start to discover that, it's like they can be very metrosexual. Like they'll be, of course, attractive, but like they'll focus on it to the point to where it's like, oh, I got a fresh pair of shoes. I don't want to step on. I don't even want to walk outside in them. Right? Like they'll be too focused on it in a way. Like versus like it's really sense of like we're kind of like in that realm of aesthetic appeal, visual aesthetic appeal, and like sensory aesthetic appeal. That's what I'm talking about. But like, so it's like we know it's more natural for us. Let's just put it like that.
But a lot of these women won't even give you the time of day to prove your value, prove your income if you're an ugly mother, right? So if you can't even have that first interaction go well, there's no way to build a rapport with women and be this guy who's got a high income because you never even had that door opened, right?
That's
So
true.
looks are 100% the most important driving factor in relationships for men and women. And just circling back to,
I mean, I'm not saying he's wrong about that. I mean, I do think looks is important, but you can't just have looks and nothing else at the same time. Like, yeah.
the thing about it being feminine to care about your looks,
Not necessarily. Like I'm not saying.
But you can't put like, yeah, I see what like both sides. Like, you can't put so much emphasis on the point to where it's like you doing these drastic methods. Like, in my opinion, like what he does. That's kind of like what he's trying to say. yeah, like you should do that, but it's like risk reward, like you doing all that for no reason at this certain point, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I think it's feminine only because women are the only, people who are right now caring about their looks, but that doesn't necessarily make it feminine in your pursuit of improving, It's just something that they traditionally have cared about, but there's
Yeah.
nothing inherently feminine about looks maxing.
I
It's
don't know about
yeah,
that.
it just seemed I don't know. I guess my perspective of it is
It's
like
just too
there's
too
so many more
much.
things
That's
that a
all it
man
is.
could focus on. Not that, if he
Exactly, that's
can't
true.
make himself look better, right? I'm not saying like you don't do any of the things to make yourself look better. I do believe that. But to some extent, it's like there's so many other sort of buckets in your life that you could improve on that would also
Yeah.
make you more sought after. And I do
Extroverted sensing is like been there, done that. So that's what it is. Like been there, done that. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it is. When it's your dominant function or your secondary function, been there, done that. I get it, but I also realized at a certain point, he probably don't even remember when he came to this realization, but at a certain point, he probably realized, I should focus on a lot of other things other than just that. Like, you know what I mean? Bradley Martyn's not a bad looking dude. No homo, just objectively speaking himself. You know what I mean? Like, especially back in the day, he dude like 40 something now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
understand
Of
what you're
course.
saying, where if there's no initial attraction, that maybe that no matter how much money someone has, maybe they're just not even opening that door. But I do think that changes as you get older. I think as you get older, for both sides and both sexes, people are looking for different things. I think when you're younger,
Oh
they're
yeah.
definitely looking for that, right? But I just think
You
I
know
think
what's interesting about Clavicular is a lot of things he does has bad long term consequences, but at the same time, stereotypically, kind of not stereotypically, introvert intuition looks at how long term, and they might make decisions that are not going to negatively affect them long term. But in this case, he's operating out of extroverted sensing, which is not his familiar territory. So he overindulges and does things that can affect him long term negatively. He's aware of it, but he doesn't care. Like his introverted intuition is focusing on the long term aspect as far as how he's going to look after he does all this, which is interesting. That just goes to show you it's not always that black and white as far as long term and NI users can do dumb things too that can affect them negatively long term. Like it's possible, even though it's not as common. I think it's possible. Hypothetically, let's just say hypothetically, if he is an INTJ, it's not that I'm 100% sure, but I'm pretty high on how sure I am about it. For both of these people, I'm pretty high on it.
it evolves.
Well, I think you would be right that there is a lot more you can do as a man who's unattractive to kind of build yourself up.
But yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too off topic. Uh, I think that's cool for right now. And I don't have a lot of space. It's kind of talking about things, like kind of talking about things that's getting me off topic a little bit. I'm just trying to stick on the type topic right now. I don't want to get sidetracked, but hopefully this is a little bit of a learning experience for everybody. You know what I mean? Hopefully y'all can get some out of that. And y'all see how complicated it could be, and people never like. I'll be talking like if somebody be like, "Oh, I think somebody's this type," and then they'll start saying they did this, that, and this and that, looking at it on service level. But it's like, did you ever think like, okay, they're doing these things, and it might sound like it's a function, but like, did you think about maybe is that their inferior function that they're operating out of when they do these things? Is it their tertiary function? Is it their second function? Like, if you think about these things, just because you see flashes of a function doesn't mean that it's like they dominant or second function. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyways, man, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.